See ya. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. Hey, Ben. How are you? You can sit if you want.
Okay.
We're
gonna broadcast this to the zoology.
You can see if it'll join. I've got Zoom all pulled up. See if you can start meeting. I don't know if I can be on 2 places at one time. I don't understand that. If it doesn't work, just come on back in. Yeah, Susan, appreciate you taking time to join us here. You reminded me that you graduated in 2015, and so it's funny, we've been doing this series for, I guess, maybe about 5 years. And this year it just happened that almost each person that we had come back was an alumni. So it's been really fun to hear from you guys and see your face and just, catch up. And I think maybe it's useful for the students to kind of know that you sat in their chair and that
Yeah.
what you're doing is certainly something that is within their grasp too. So so if you want to just tell the students what your name is, where'd you grow up?
My name is Susan Scrivner, and I grew up in Marietta.
Oh, did you? Okay. And then you guys moved
Yeah.
up to Ball Ground.
Yep.
Okay. And what's your job title now?
Wastewater lab analyst.
Okay. And that those are clearly defined by is it the Cherokee County Sewer and Water Authority?
Water and Sewerage Authority. Yep.
Okay. So that is like a legit like job that they would advertise for, and it's like the official title or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. And this one I'm really curious about. How did you decide what you wanted to do? Because what I remember when you left, that you just knew you wanted to kind of stay in the area, and you didn't want to go to grad school. But that, given that we live an hour north of Atlanta, leaves so many different options open. So how did you arrive at this job?
Well, I definitely had no idea what I wanted to do.
Okay.
I enjoyed helping set up the labs and clean up the labs there with work study. So I was thinking a lab job. I didn't want to go the medical route or do anything too public. So just driving past my house, actually, there was this sign that had an Erlenmeyer flask on it. And I kept wondering, I wonder if they have a lab. So I finally went in there and they did. And it was a wastewater lab, which I didn't even know was a job that existed. So
Really?
I put my resume. Yeah.
This lab that you're talking about?
No. Not where I work now, but the first one I started at was
Is that the one
a small commercial.
And Jasper? What's it
Yep.
called? Environmental services?
Yeah, environmental management services. They no longer have a lab, which is why I ended up moving. But
Okay.
but yeah.
So you had worked as a work, just for the students, to be clear, you worked as a work study student in our
Yes.
program, which is a job that's incidentally available. And we're looking for students for next year.
Oh.
And again, I guess the point is to be exposed to different things and see what you like.
Yes. And even in the work study, working with each of you, there were different things to try out. So
yeah, Susan was a sport. I remember when we put the trap out for the snakes and drove up the road and came back and there was a snake in there.
Yeah.
That's too crazy. And you finished your degree here, and then is there any other further education that you required, either to get your job or now since you're at your job?
Well, not to get my job, but after I was working there for a little while, I went and took a class, which wouldn't have been required because of my degree. But I mean, it's so industry specific that it really helps to take the test. You have to get licensed.
Yeah. And that was like a wastewater operator test?
Lab analyst.
Oh, lab analyst test. Okay.
Yeah.
And How did you feel? I mean, this is just kind of a curiosity on my point, but how much prep did you have to do, or how much of your success on the test came from your experience here?
It definitely gave me a good background, but like I said, it was, the questions were very industry specific. I don't think there's any way I could have passed it if I hadn't gone to the class. And I had, a stack of note cards like this, and most people have to take it more than once. So I was thrilled to get just thrilled to get a C.
Oh,
Happiest
okay.
C I've ever gotten. Yeah.
That's all you needed, right?
Yep.
Yeah, awesome. And then moving forward, there are still licensures that you can obtain and things that you could do from here, more classes, more tests and things.
Well, we have to do continuing education every other year. So I get to, learn in that way, and you can go to conferences and stuff like that. I don't need to do any more licensing. If I wanted to, I guess I could get operator's license, but I'm just not interested in heading that route.
Yeah. Do you miss the classroom?
Like at a school classroom, or
Yeah, just learning, having local information you need to learn about, and going through it and taking a test and all that.
I did like taking tests.
Yeah.
But
You don't
I
have to
still
be
am
embarrassed.
learning.
We're nerds. It's okay. That's just what we do.
I don't miss the projects or the stress.
Okay. Yeah.
That's one of the awesome things about this job in particular, is that I get to leave it at work.
Right. Yeah. So while you were here at Reinhardt, and I know the answer to this, but I'm curious what your answer is. How serious of a student were you, and how involved were you on campus?
Well, does basically living in Dobbs count as involved?
I'd say you were what sort of the mayor of Dobbs.
I don't know about that, but I was there.
Yeah. So yeah, but I think you were a pretty serious student. I mean, you put a lot of time into your classes and try to get out of it what you could. So day to day, when you show up for work, what is a typical day? Is there a typical day, and what does it look like?
I would say that the 1 week to the next is pretty much the same. Every Monday is about the same as the Monday before, kind of deal. But I will say I am on my feet most of the day, probably like 6 hours. Yeah, I like that, but I know it can be hard. It was hard at first to get used to, but I do lots of pipetting and weighing out things on the scale, those sorts of things. I like that it's a very physical job. I'm not sitting at a desk all day.
Really? So you have a large volume of samples you need to run and limited time to do it.
Right. Yeah. Multitasking is a good thing to be able to do around here.
Okay. So do you send things off, or do you do all the testing in-house?
Most of the testing we do here. We do send some things off.
Okay. And what kind of equipment do you use? Like spectro?
Yeah, we have a spec, and my coworker uses an auto analyzer every day.
Mm-hmm.
We have water baths and incubators and scale.
And you do testing for bacteria and chemical?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And then you mentioned it's sort of like a week. Why is it within a given week? Is that just a matter of you receive samples early in the week and you have to have them done by the end of the week, or?
Well, we run just about all the tests every day, every day of the year. But as far as throughout the week, there are some tests I only do weekly, and we have 3 different plants, and some of them are permitted to be run every day, and some are, only 5 days a week. And so there's a little bit of variety between the days. And also my coworker and I split up the work between us. So some days I'm running some tests and other days she's running those.
Okay. I gotcha. And what's the water? I guess big picture, the water that is coming into your lab is water that has gone through sewage treatment and is now scheduled for release into a waterway.
Right. And we actually test what comes into the plant as well. So we have the raw sewage and after treatment to make sure that it's meeting requirements.
Oh, so before and after.
Yeah, for the most part, we test the before to make sure there's nothing too crazy coming in that the operators need to know about or that we need to trace back to see if someone's dumping something they shouldn't, those sorts of things.
Okay.
But they're also in our permit, we have to reduce the percentage of certain things by a certain amount.
Okay. I see. So it's like teachers have to say, here's what you knew before, and then we're going to give you a test, and then we're going to see what happens afterwards.
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, this is just a question. Nobody else can listen, but does it smell bad?
It does.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, it was funny. I was asking my coworkers what they like and dislike about the job as well, things I may not have thought about. And one of my coworkers was like, make sure you mention the smell. I was like, oh yeah, because you get so used to it, you don't think that much about it, because for the most part, it's contained. Like the only time you really have to deal with it is when you're pouring up the samples. Mostly they're in containers closed, but if you're out there in the plant all the time, that'd be a different story.
yeah, yeah. Which I guess that's what Anthony does, right? He works. My brother-in-law works
Right.
for the same, and my father-in-law works too. I don't know if you knew that. He's in the Cherokee.
At the water plant.
Yeah,
right?
water plant.
Yeah.
So this organization has many jobs. It
Oh,
really
yes.
is amazing, and they're always looking for people,
Yeah.
as I understand.
And is Lori still doing the Adopt a Stream with you all?
Mhm. Yep.
So, I mean, there's that whole side too.
Environmental affairs side. Yep.
Yep.
That's true. So, so what do you like the most about your job?
Like I said, I do like that I can leave it at work. So it's a lower stress job. I love the lab atmosphere, how there's a place for everything and everything is in its place. And it's just a lot of fun.
Order and organization.
I do.
The field stuff was a little messy.
Yeah, and I like the field stuff, but it is nice being inside when it's nasty out and things are more predictable here.
Yeah. But I mean, that's great. I love that. That's so cool. What do you dislike the most about your job?
For one thing, I do feel like we're often the bearer of bad news.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because we have to tell the operators if the numbers are high, and sometimes that's not so. And especially commercially, that was a bigger deal too. That they don't like to hear it, and a lot of times, the clients in the commercial, they'll be like, "Well, what'd you do wrong?" And it's like, it's just what your number is.
There's the assumption, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you kind of close that loop. You go back to the operators to report the numbers. It's not like an automated thing that they just sign in and see them.
Well, they can, but I do usually let them know too, because sometimes they're busy out turning valves and stuff. So
right. So like Ava said, no news is good news. Then if you don't, if everything is within, so the governing body that sets those limits is the state EPD, Environmental Protection
Yes,
Division.
the EPD.
Okay. And then if not, but then they have to figure out how to deal with that issue, I guess. The operators.
Yeah, the operators. Yes.
Okay. Anything else? I mean, you've been there for how long?
I've been here for about 4 years, and I've been doing essentially this in other labs as well for about 7 years now.
Okay. You got another 30 years in you. I mean, is this something you feel like is a sustainable career type job that you could continue to do for?
Yeah, I really enjoy it. And the good news is, I mean, it's not an industry that's going anywhere.
God help us if we don't have our suits. We've been talking about parasites in zoology class, so you are there to thank for us not having all kinds of fighting helmets and nematodes growing in it. So
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, then this one is sort of like, can you talk a little bit about a project you've worked on that you're particularly proud of? Is there some, so it sounds like mostly it's day-to-day sort of normal
Yes.
stuff, but are there things that have come along that you felt like, wow, that's a little treat once in a while that you really liked working on?
Yeah, I kind of come up with my own projects to keep myself busy because I am pretty fast. Sometimes I get done a little early. So I, of course, I organized the storage room because I think that's fun. But I also did some bench sheets for our yearly testing that we do, which was challenging for me. So it was fun because I'm not real familiar with Excel. So I was kind of having to teach myself how to work with that and put in the formulas to do the calculations and all that. So that was fun. I've also been digitizing old bench sheets so that we can get rid of them at some point.
Oh,
So
right.
stuff like that.
Backlog. So efficiency.
Yep.
Sounds like you were like improving the efficiency of the flow and the processes and things like that.
Yep.
Intellectually, I mean, are there little things that you wonder about? You notice patterns in the data, and are there little projects you feel like with a little bit of extra help from a student that you guys could ask and answer?
I don't know, but I know what you mean about you can definitely think about it deeper. And I have actually read through the operators book too, just because I was interested, and learning how the plant works is so interesting to me because it's so biological, because in my mind, before knowing anything about this, I thought a wastewater plant is where, they have like really big screens and they get finer and finer down to the like, I don't know, molecular kind of level. Like I didn't realize that they're, in the industry, they call them bugs,
Right.
doing all the work of the cleaning. It's super interesting.
Do you monitor that, like the balance of bacteria to protists, or I don't know? I mean, is that something
I know
that they
I
keep
know that
track of?
the operators look under the microscope because there is a better balance. Some are better at cleaning than others, and that sort of thing. We're going to be doing some of that back here as well at some point.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think that's when I think of jobs. I'll not your job, but a lot of times I think, well, what would it be like to have that job? But I always think like it would be boring. That's the thing that I'm most like in fear of, is getting bored. But I
Right.
think that any job, like you're saying, there are every job, there's some really unique and interesting aspect to it that you could sort of think more deeply about. And it sounds like you have some leeway to that the organization would welcome your input and you looking into those things a little bit more deeply.
Yeah, and I like that we have the freedom to do that. But I definitely was concerned about, is it still going to be fun to do the same thing every day? But what's cool is first with the commercial side, you get so many different samples from different places, you never know what you're going to get. And then so coming here, I was like, it's just going to be the same samples every day, but it's actually still really interesting because you get to watch the process of the plant. If something's a little high for a little while and they get it back down, and the operators will even tell you, what's going on. So you have the depth there. And then the individual tests, sometimes something will go wrong because you have standards that what it's supposed to be. So that the test is running correctly. And if those are out of whack, then you have to go through the process of what could have gone wrong. Like, is there contamination, or, is the equipment working okay? So there's still that puzzly, sense about the job.
Yeah, problem solving.
Yes.
And you and I talked a little bit about this, but the economic realities of any job. Like we had a vet come a couple weeks ago, and he had some really good pointers about don't think that you're going to go to an out of school vet school and be able to make any money. Like there's always perceptions about how, the best way to make money. But like it sounds like
Right.
you finished up here, you went and could basically immediately start working for Cherokee County Water and Sewer Authority.
Yeah,
They
they
provide the
could.
training, and the pay is enough to have the life that you want to live.
Yep.
And there's predictable raises,
Yeah.
benefits. I know these are not like real fun things to think about when you're 18 years old, but that's that's what allows you to have the freedom to do the kind of things you want to do, right?
Yeah. And insurance is huge. And the small commercial labs, they couldn't afford to give me insurance, health insurance, which in the beginning was fine because I was still under my parents. But when they went on Medicare, I had to start paying. It was between $250 and $300 a month, which I feel like is probably more now.
Mm-hmm.
So here they pay for it all. So that's one thing that I just don't even have to worry about. And when you think about over the course of the year, I mean, you're talking $3,000-$4,000 worth of value there.
Yeah. And if somebody wants to give me $3,000, I'll take it, right?
Right.
Yeah. So for a student that I'm just kind of thinking about, like, if somebody's out there listening, like, could this be for me? Somebody that likes the lab setting, and somebody that is not looking to go on to grad school forever and ever. And then if they decided this is something they want to do, what advice would you give them in terms of getting well positioned to be competitive for a job like that? Like while they're here at Reinhardt, what should they be doing?
Oh, okay. I mean, I think they're prepared now, honestly, but the Adopta stream was a really good, I mean, in a lot of ways, that's what I do.
Okay.
I mean, I don't test the streams. You could, like if you were in Lori's department, but if they enjoy that, this is something that they might enjoy as well. Also, the micro stuff, some of that I think is applicable. But the biggest thing that I would tell them, because all the lab jobs that I got, none of them were hiring. I went to places that I was interested in working, and I asked if they were hiring. I dropped my resume off. None of them were. All of them called me back later. So yeah, I think you should, find a place that you're interested in, because going the like Indeed route, like I didn't get anything from any of that, and a lot of those places, they're hiring all the time because that isn't where a lot of people want to work a lot of times,
Yeah. So it's kind of self-selecting. Like if they're on Indeed, that might mean there's a high turnover rate, which might mean
right,
a horrible place to.
Right. I mean, I'm sure that's not always the case, but it was just interesting to me when I thought about it that none of those places were hiring.
Yeah.
No, and they said no to me in the beginning.
Yeah, I remember clearly when you graduated, and it was kind of, I was like, oh, I could see them get a job. She's such a good person. She would be such a good worker, and especially when you're sort of wanting to be more local. I mean,
right.
I think that organization is one of the best places to look. So knocking on doors, not just sitting back and on your computer and waiting. You've got to
right
FaceTime.
Which is hard. It's hard for me.
Yeah,
but
right. It's hard for everybody. It's kind of a soul-sucking experience, I think, putting yourself out there.
Oh yeah.
But it paid off, and that's good.
Yep.
And maybe the work study that sounds like I'm putting words in your mouth, but it seemed like a formative experience for you.
Yes, it was. Yeah, that, and then I did that. The independent study that I did with Dr. Satchery was right up the same alley. It's funny that all these things I did, not necessarily for knowing that I was heading that direction, they all were very much related to what I do now.
Yeah. Well, students, does anyone have questions for Susan? Really tough ones, please. That's going to make her. Who has some questions? Gabe, you did some water testing.
Yeah, I did. And one thing that had came to my mind while she was talking, my uncle used to work in kind of a water department, such as yourself. And one thing that I was kind of wondering that I never really got to ask him was like, you said that you dealt with fish. Do you deal with like, or maybe not yourself, but the place where you kind of dealt with fish and whatnot? Is there any jobs, of the sorts for the county and stuff like that that works with the animals and how they like interact with either their water or anything like that in your field?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know of any.
I think Will.
But yeah,
some of that, don't they?
I haven't even been to their lab actually, so I'm not real sure. We send out the toxicity stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I
but
got you.
they actually do like get in the creeks to test for like spills and stuff like that.
Yeah, they're looking at the sort of, so further downstream of what Susan does, Gabe, then the question is, once they release the water, is it affecting the local ecology? And so they'll do like surveys from invertebrates, and they do education and things with fish. So that environmental affairs wing of the same organization might be of interest.
I got you. Yeah, I was just wondering because I really enjoy like sort of the environmental side of things like that, like animals and like plants and everything of the such. And so that's why I was wondering, if there was kind of anything like that along the lines. So thank you. I really appreciate that.
Sure.
Hey, Susan, this is
Hey.
Aaliyah. What is the most, like, the craziest result that you've gotten so far from your testing?
Oh, we had samples come in. Actually, this is after treatment even, that were blue. And we had no idea why. And obviously, it was something so fine that it didn't come out in any of the treatment. And that was actually very frustrating to me because there was no way of knowing. So obviously, someone dumped something somewhere, but that was wild because so much water to be noticeable.
So you never found out why it was blue?
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that can be one of the frustrating things about working on this end of it is that, yeah, you may never know.
Did you
So
test
then
for
what?
Smurfs?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, did you test for any kind of Smurf stuff going on there?
Hey, Susan, how are you? It's great to see you.
Hi, it's good to see you too.
I have a quick question, just a little question, like, can you see, oh, my light just went off, but it's okay. Do you see any upward mobility in your position? Like, are there places where you could see where you would want to go to once, you've been there a few years and you want to move up?
There's a little less of that, I think, in this industry. I mean, you could always be the lab manager, or you'd almost be switching into a different role doing that, because I like to be at the bench,
Right. No, I understand.
Yeah.
For now, I'm sure
but
it's
people,
great.
yeah.
But sometimes we change and we,
Sure.
it'd just be interesting to see what other opportunities even past that. So.
Yeah, I'm not excited for this.
Anybody else?
How long is the practice gonna be?
You said it was
Well,
like 15 questions.
Susan, it's been fun. I hope that the Zoom was not too.
All right,
Is that the first time you've done
So
a
if you
Zoom,
take another
a Zoom
one,
call?
Yeah.
Well, you did a
No
great
work
job.
ethic.
You have to
Yeah,
Thanks.
it's a piece of cake, really. I mean, I think it really does kind of feel like a conversation. You know, if you get past
Yeah.
like the whole you're looking at screen time, but we had to do a lot of our classes like this, and so it is useful. And you know, we're happy that you're happy, and appreciate you. It's good for, you know, this auspiciously is for the students, but I think the faculty have gotten a lot out of it too, and it's sort of heartening to hear that what we're doing here is useful for you when you go out and get a job. So thanks for giving us your time, and you know, we'll hope for the
Yeah.
best. And come in. Please come up and visit too.
And thanks for doing this for them, because I know this is really helpful. I know when I was in that position, I mean, just the more different jobs you can expose them to, the better, because so many of them, it's like you've never even heard of this before. Yeah.
True.
Yeah,
So awesome.
it's great to see you. I'm so glad you're
Me
happy.
too. Thank you.
Good. Yeah, thanks, Ava. All
Thank
right,
you.
well, Susan, say hi to your parents. Tell your dad I'm gonna go get some blueberries,
All right.
and we'll talk to you again soon.
All
Yeah, and
right.
please come and visit if you get the chance.
Okay, I will.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll
Okay.
be reaching out.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.